Okay, so again, thank you and good afternoon. You have joined today, May 11th, the webinar for issuing adjustable rate mortgages, also known as ARM pool types in SFPDM. My name is Renee Justbuddy, and I do work for the Customer Experience Division here at Ginnie Mae in the Office of Securities and Operations. I am joined today by the one and only Wade Gale from the Bank of New York Mellon, and he will be facilitating today's webinar, as well as sharing a demo of the system and providing some insight on how to issue these different pool types in SFPDM. So with that being said, we can go on to the next slide. All right, so for today, I mentioned that we're going to be discussing, the ARM pool types in SFPDM, and then Wade's going to take over, and then he's going to touch on the different prerequisites, for pooling those different pool types in SFPDM. Then he's going to share information regarding paths of a pool. And then we're going to jump into a demo where Wade is going to show us how to issue the different pool types in SFPDM. Followed by that, we're going to share some quick tips and resources and support that you all can utilize to help you submit these different pool types once you begin doing so. Then, of course, we're going to have a Q&A session where you guys can ask all of your pressing questions. All right, so as many of you know, I'm sure very familiar with Wade Gale from the Bank of New York Mellon. As I mentioned earlier, he will be facilitating today's webinar. Tauheed Ali of the Bank of New York Mellon generally does assist with these webinars. However, he will not be on today's call, but we thought we'd go ahead and share his picture anyway, so that way you can familiarize yourself if you want to know what he looked like whenever you call the Bank of New York Mellon for questions. This is who you're speaking to.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, Renee said, I'm Wade Gale, BNY Mellon. So I'm going to try and drive the car today. And guess what? I don't even drive. So we are in for a bumpy ride. But let's see if I can get this going. We're going to talk about ARMs. I know ARMs pools are not the flavor of the month anymore, but we just want to try and give you just a little perspective in terms of you can also do ARM pools in the SFPDM space. So this is what this is really all about. And what we try to do with this session, we're going to just basically look at 3 different ARM type. And then we're going to as part of the demo, we're going to show you how we import one of the pool types that we talk about. First one we have on the screen here is about MAR identified as a 5-year ARM. These are multiple pools. Of course, they go into the loan package just the same way with a 1.5 interest rate cap. The first interest rate adjustable rate for each mortgage must occur with at least 60 months, but not more than 66 months after the first payment date on the mortgage. And the first interest adjustable date for the security must occur 61 to 63 months from the issue date. So we kind of give you a little layout there, the 5-year ARMs, that's the MAF pool type. Securities issued on the first day, January, February, and March. Those are the time you can issue those pools. Shall have initial interest adjustable, 62, 63, and 62, 61, 62, and 63 months after on April 1st. Shall have annual security interest adjustable thereafter on April 1st, and shall always make adjustable interest payment date to security holders on May 20th, which that kind of makes sense. The payment is always done on the 20th for the Gen May 2. So that's the MAF if you decide to do a 5-year hybrid ARM pool. Then we have the MAR identified as the 1-year ARM. And that's the one that if you've been in the program for a long time in the Gen May space, that's the one that was the more popular one back in the days before all those housing stuff happens. The MARs, I've seen a couple, but not that much anymore. But we just wanted to make sure we're in a new space now, SFPDM. If somehow you decide to do that, you have the ability to do it also in that in the SFPDM space. The 1-year arm multiple pool or loan package, the first interest adjustable rate for each mortgage must occur at least 12 months, but not more than 18 months after the first payment date of the mortgage. The first interest adjustable date for these securities must occur 13 to 15 months from the issue month. So that's, you have the AR pool type, mortgage-backed security interests issued on the first day of the month, January, February, March, shall have an initial interest adjustable at least 12 months, but no more than 18 months after the first payment date. So that would be April, and shall have annual interest adjustable thereafter on April, and shall always have the payment on 1 month after the interest adjustable. That would be on May 1st. So you just want to make sure you're following this type of schedule if you're going to do the MAR, the MAF, and the next screen, please. And we have the MAT, that's the 3-year arm. So it's hybrid arm. The first interest adjustable date for each month, for each mortgage, must occur at least 36 months, but not more than 42 months, and after the first payment date of the mortgage. And the first interest adjustable date for the security must be between 37 to 39 months after the issue date. So those things are, you'll have to know, does this pool meet that criteria to go into our ARM MAT pool? You have to make sure you're following those guidelines that you can find in the Ginnie Mae guide itself. Next slide. Okay, I just wanted to give you some background. If maybe you know this already, maybe you're new users, first time using SFPDM. So just want to give you some prerequisites. You're getting your pools together, get your loans together. You want to make sure you have certain things. You want to ensure there are assigned pool numbers. You know, you have to get those pool numbers. You have to request your pool numbers. So those pool numbers can link to your issuer number. You want to make sure those, check your availability of pool numbers and on the request pool numbers screen. This, we're going to go in a little more depth when we go into working with the new issuer. I think we're going to have a seminar next month or a training session on that. Ensure there's adequate commitment authority. Very important. You're issuing pools like for $1 million and you have commitment authority in for 500. Actually, you're going to be able to put the pool in SFPDM, but once that pool comes in and go through the process and get ready to be logged, it's going to fail right there because it's going to say you have insufficient fund. So if you're familiar with this, you'll get a call from your account executive say you need to send a wire to make up if you're going to issue that pool. And also you want to take in mind, if you do have insufficient fund, this could affect your delivery because most likely you're promised the investor, I'm going to make the delivery on such and such date. And if you're not, if you didn't look at those things to make sure they're okay, that pool could be delayed because of insufficient fund. You might not be able to meet your agreement on that day. The pool, so the pool might not be able to be delivered because of insufficient fund, and you might not, could take a couple of days to get that going. So check on those things. Commitment authority, very important. And of course, your master agreements must have master agreement, complete up-to-date master agreements on file. You know, we're in a new year. Last year, we embarked on the renewal. The renewals usually start around October 1st and finish around December 31st. So make sure you have your up-to-date master agreements. If you have to change out a P&I or your TNI account, make sure you do that. Because if you don't have updated master agreements, when you try to set up your pools, you're only going to have master agreements for previous years. And that you're going to get a flag on that saying pool numbers, the master agreements are not up to date. You need to make sure you have the correct master agreements when you're issuing these pools. And if you have different accounts for maybe your GenMay 1s or GenMay 2, make sure you're selecting the right accounts, the right P&I, TNI accounts when you're setting up your pools. So check your master agreement. Even if it's not you, you might not do that because you handle more of the initial pools, but it might be another area that does that. If a master agreement P&I account change, make sure they do the updates so you can have the correct information in the pool. And of course, you have to complete your form 11708. That's the ACH debit authorization form. Make sure all those things are in place before you want to start doing your pool. So check your pool numbers. Make sure those pool numbers are assigned to you. Commitment authority. Make sure you have enough money to issue the pools you have designated for issuance. Master agreement. Make sure you have your complete master agreements for, like now we're in 2023. Make sure they're completed for this year. And again, renewal starts again always as of now, October 1st. Make sure you jump on that as soon as possible when that time comes around, so you're good to go and you don't wait. I always say when I'm doing these sessions, never wait until the last day of the month of the year to do your master agreements. That's when you're going to get into trouble. You can't find the people who are authorized to submit. So you just want to make sure you do that as soon as possible. So those are just some of the prerequisites you want you to look at. Next screen, please. Okay. What this screen does, it just kind of give you an idea what happens when the pools are submitted for issuance. We have, if you look at number 1, it talks about pool submission. Then of course, that's you, the issuer, who's going to set up those pools and submit them to your custodian. So one happens that the issuer sets up the pool and submit to the custodian. Number 2, initial certification. Of course, the custodian goes in and retrieve the information, review the data that comes in through SFPDM, and compare that with the information they have on those pools or the mortgage. And if they're okay, they can do their certification. If they're not, then they're obligated to actually send that pool back to the issuer, saying they have rejected the pool because information are not the same. So you have the ability to retrieve that rejection, go in, make the changes, and resubmit the pool. So the first piece, of course, is the issuer. The second piece is the custodian with the initial certification. And of course, the custodian is still going to certify their pool as of now in the GenNet space. There's no PDM as of now for the custodian, so they're still certifying these pools in GenNet. Although you're using SFPDM, they're still retrieving and certifying the pool in GenNet. And of course, we have the daily sweep. We talk about that a lot of times. If you've ever been to any of our sessions, we sweep the network twice a day. I think there's another slide after this that deals with that. But on the third piece is what happens in our world. Anything that marks certified, we go out there and we bring that down. We put that on the GenMay IPMS. We run through edit checks again just to make sure everything are okay. If everything is fine, we also we also know the pools that are created for settlement, and that information is also sent over to the Fed, and we release at 4 o'clock every day. So that's what happened in our world. So we just wanted to give you an idea what happens in our space there. Next screen, please. And this is just the sweep, what happens. The SFPDM network is swept twice each business day for processing and issuance of pools certified by the document custodian. We do a 2 p.m. sweep. Again, anything that's marked certified, we will go out and download that. But issuers, there are times when you might also need something to be deleted. And just remember, you can actually delete a pool that has been submitted and that has been certified by the custodian up to 12 noon the next day. And I'm saying delete it, and I should try and change that, because we're now in the SFPDM world. We don't use the word delete to do a network. We use the word recall. So we can recall that pool now if it's in a certified state, but up to 12 noon. If you still want to make changes to that pool, but it's after 12, we usually recommend you to send us an email at genmay1@bnymellon.com and tell us you'd like to recall that pool. Because we're going to ask you, once you give us that email, we have to go in our pools that we have scheduled for release and put a mark that we won't have to send that pool to the Fed. If you call after 4 p.m., well, that pool might have already been issued and sent over to the Fed for delivery. So be careful. You have the ability to delete or to recall a transfer certified pool. If you miss the 12 noon recall, you can always give us a call or send us an email saying that you need this pool to be recalled. And then we'll do the recall and send a request back to you, telling you that via email that the pool has been recalled. After 4 p.m., it's gonna be too late because that file has been released. We call it release on our side, and prepared and sent off to the Fed for delivery. And then we have our 9 o'clock or 9 p.m. sweep. So anything that did not happen, anything that happened between after 2 p.m. up until 9 p.m., we do another sweep. And those pools are a part of our package for the next day. And what happens, since those are next day, those are considered 2-day delivery. Since anything like between now, we're going to sweep up to 9 o'clock. That comes in tomorrow. So that's not going to get a delivery for Monday. That will be, those pools can be delivered on Tuesday going forward. But anything that was swept today before 2 o'clock can have a delivery date for tomorrow, if that's your delivery date. If your delivery date is on the 21st, the 27th of 29th of May, then the Fed will make the delivery at that time. But our obligation with Jenny Mae, anything that we get in today must go out tomorrow. Not necessarily delivered. The Fed won't deliver until the specified delivery date on your 11705 form. Next slide, please.
All right, Wade, I'm going to stop sharing and you can go ahead and kick off the demo.
So we logged into the system and we went straight into SFPDM maintenance. You want to make sure you have your custodian information set up there. So that's what we're looking at now. Custodian information is information that comes from, of course, from your master agreement. Then you want to check on your FRB subscriber. This information, you would have to go in and enter the information. And again, this is a little bit different from what you're used to in the GennyNet space. So you have to make sure you put in the information in the correct spot. That's some pain point we're having on this for now. We're trying to deal with it. After we do our FRB subscriber, then we want to check to make sure our master agreement ACH information is also entered in. And this information does come from when you set up the information in MAMS. So that's some of the things you want to look at your SFPDM maintenance screen before you start doing the pool. Now let's try and go to SFPDM pools and loans screen. And mostly if you're using SFPDM right now, you're familiar with this screen. We're going to go to the area that says advanced filter. And we're going to look at some of the filters. Here we're going to choose pool class, and we're going to choose GenMay 2. And since we're talking about ARMs, those are some of the ARMs the ARM pool that you can actually do the process in on SFPDM. So we're just giving you an area if you want to just have a look at that, and you can then apply the filters and see what comes up. And we just have a 3-year arm information comes up there. And up the top of that screen, I'm sure it tells you we're going to add a loan. And then you have 2 ways of adding loan. You can enter manually, and you can also import a zip file, which of course is the XML format. And most likely you would have that file somewhere out there on your drive. You're going to bring that in. After you have identified the file, click on open. And you have the ability to validate your business rules right there and then. We're going to do that. And if you somehow had a pool in there, you can also have that information overridden. So pool upload is in progress. Just want to make sure you see these things. You notice right away there's some notification that came up on the screen about these pools. We're going to check those notifications, go to the mailbox. We're going to open to see what happens there. The first one says, pools validate successfully, validation fail, which is we expected. Because that's something I asked them to put in so we could try and see if we can clear up an error message. So let's go on and view the pool itself. And just remember, we're in a test and error environment, so sometimes the thing goes a little bit slow. That's the error message that we have there. We're going to look at that a little bit later. Let's go to the legacy name. The reason why I bring this up, because we know we're all GenNet users and we're used to the GenNet terms, but there are also MISMO terms that we are going to see a lot in the SFPDM space, like pool identifier. We know that as a pool number. So we just have to get used to some of these terms. This listing is found right there on the pool details screen. So if you want to keep it there, if you want to print it and put it down somewhere so you can find it, it's called legacy name. So I would suggest you check on those just to be familiar with the new terms that we're using in the SFPDM space. Now, this is the pool that we entered or we imported. We just want to give you an idea what the information looks like when it comes in. There we have the pool identifier, the index type, the issue date, the suffix identifier, the amortization type, the class type, and the structure type. And just one of the cool features of SFPDM, you can actually collapse so you don't have to have the information all over the screen all the time. And then it gives you the party section. I always like this thing because I'm like, isn't that nice? We're at work and we still can have party. So there we have a party section, which consists of the issuer information and the custodian information and the servicer information. So that's all the stuff in the party. So we have the header, the party, and then we get to the general information on the pool detail. Of course, the validated status is not passed. We haven't done that yet. Then we have the submission, the rate of the pool, the principal balance amount, the count, the guarantee. I think I'm going a little bit too fast. Current principal balance amount. We have the current loan amount, loan count, the guarantee fee percentage, which of course is always 6%. Then we'll go down more for the, see that trade date, trade book entry date. You know, on GenNet, you're used to the delivery date. That's what that is. You have the maturity date. You have the pool EIN. Of course, this is an M pool, so you don't need an EIN there. The EINs are needed at the end of the year for that. Then we have the ARM information. Of course, if we're doing an X pool, you would not have had this there. So it's a 45 days according to the information we looked at earlier. We have the interest adjustable rate effective date that comes up there. And I have the pool mortgage margin that's you determine, that's 2.5%. Now the master agreement. Master agreement information, that's all the stuff that comes from MAMS. So you can actually select the ones that you're using for that particular pool. If this is the information, then you can move on, but you can select more if you do have more there. And certification and an agreement form 11711B. If you're an old schooler in GeniNet, you realize that this form was by itself. So we kind of make it a little bit more intuitive for you, so you don't have to go from screen to screen. So the certification and agreement form is now on the pool detail screen. So that will make it a little bit easier for you in doing that. And also the subscriber information. You don't have a separate screen for that now. It's also a part of the 11.7 pool detail screen, I should say. And then, of course, we have the summary information at the bottom, just like it was before on this. This is all the subscriber account information. All of that now is on the pool detail screen. This was by itself in the GeniNet space, but we decided we should just make that one screen so users don't have to go in and out if they're doing their data entry, especially if you're doing your manual pools. And of course, this just give the pool stat of the information that was imported in the pool. Tell you the total amount, the FHA amount, VA amount, if it's a VA, USD, and give you the maximum interest rate. All of that information is on the stat of the pool, which currently we do have in GeniNet. We decide to make sure it's a part here. Okay, we have one loan in this pool. So we want to also check on the loan. There's a one loan, the loan ID. And I think that might have changed to loan number, I think we might have in the system. We're going to bring that in, open that loan. And up the top, there's just information on the pool that the system gathered just for your information. That's a little bit more information that we have in GeniNet, and I think that will serve you well to get more information on the pool as you go along. So let's click on the loan. And there's loan information. First, we have first, previous, next, and last. And that was brought to us through the users who are doing the testing. So can we have it a little bit like GeniNet, where we do for first, next, previous, and last? So we listened, and Jen may decide to add that in. Again, we want to mention to you the SFPDM legacy mapping, the naming conventions. They are a little bit different from what you currently have in GeniNet. So use the time to actually get to understand them a little bit better when you're actually doing the pools. And again, we have the pool information. That piece was brought over from on the pool details itself. Again, you can collapse this page as you go along if you see fit to do it that way. And you bring up the general information on the loan itself. You have the current interest rate, the P&I payment amount, the UPB amount, the mortgage modification indicator, if that's necessary. You have the MOM indicator if the loan is a part of the MERS. Then you have the unique loan identifier, but of course that comes in after the pool is certified by the custodian. You have the pool issuer loan identifier. That's the loan number itself. And all the other information that goes along with the loan. It's separated differently in MFPDM just to make sure it's more manageable for you, so you can see how things are divided here. Premium and guarantee, all that information that deal with that space is there. Information about the ARM pool, all that stuff is separate by itself. There's all that, the floor rate, the mortgage margin, the first adjustment, the the percentage there, the first adjustment, the subsequent adjustment if that's necessary, the flow rate, all that stuff is there. The property information is also there. Address, and if you had other information on the loan itself, if this is 2 unit, the LTV ratio, all that stuff is still there. It's just set up a little bit different in the SFPDM space, and of course the borrower information. And some of these data elements might be different to what you're used to in GeniNet. So we want you to get used to them by using those legacy name fields. Credit score value, social security number is never shown. It's always secondary. If you have a secondary mortgagor, you put that information in. And now we have the closing information on the loan. We have the maturity date, the period count, the period month, the note amount, the note date, and the scheduled first payment date. So that's a little bit, the structure is a little bit different, or it's set up in SFPDM, but it gives you the same information. Pool detail. Remember earlier we realized that we imported a pool, but we had an error. And let's see what that error message is. Uh-oh. Latest last loan maturity date is not correct. Should fall on the same month and the year. So let's see what we have, and let's go in and make a change to that, because we want to send this pool off to the custodian as soon as possible. So let's find the maturity date, and let's update that maturity date. After it's been updated, let's save. And after we save, let's click on OK. And let's validate. Now that's a little bit different. We never did validate in GeniNet. We did apply GenMay edits, but it means the same. So those are the things we want you to get used to when you're doing some of these tasks to actually get the pool to the next level. You notice we also had a notification came up, so we want to check on that because we want to make sure we're ready to go. The pool is good. Nice. We always want to see that pool successfully passed validation. And we're ready to submit. We go right there and submit the pool. Well, before we do that, let's check our docs. Let's print our 11705. It's generated. Let's open it and view it. Just take a look. Let's bring it up a little bit so we can see a little bit more of it. Yes. And basically the same information there. File transmission number is blank, of course, because we haven't submitted a pool yet. And all the necessary data information for that pool. You notice we highlighted the collateral type undetermined. That's a new field that have to do with digital loans or digital collateral. So we'll talk about that in another training. So that's 11705, the 11706. And I always encourage users, print your form after you submit. So you have that FTN number there as some form of trail that the pool was submitted. Right now it's blank because we just want to show you what it looks like in that state. You know, we're doing the collateral type because that's one of the new features that was actually added to the system during our April implementation. So that's 11705. 11706, that's what it is, not 11705 at all. And you know, in GenNet, we did say it's called reports. Here it's called docs, just to submit. No, we're good. Let's submit. To submit, we have to make sure we agree and to those GenMay disclaimer. We click on agree and then we can go ahead and do a submission. Click on OK. We will process your request and notify you via message notification of the outcome. Okay, we submit the pool. The pool is currently locked for submission to GenNet for initial certification. Yeah, unfortunately, we still use not unfortunate, that's the process right now. We still use GenNet to do a part of this process. So just want to let you know that you still have to go into GenNet and do a couple of things called attestation of the pool document. Now, because we, so that where it says attest pool in GenNet, when we click on that, it takes us right into GenNet. Click on close, and it goes to the field where we need to attest the pool. So this pool was there, and we need to attest it before we can move on to do the cert, to send it off to the custodian. And we're testing that the information looks the same way when it came over from SFPDM into GenNet. So once we did the unselect, view selected, then we have the chance to view the forms. Here, you notice now the FTN number is on. So this is always a good time to print this form, or you can always wait until a custodian do their part on it. So this is 11706. We're testing to everything looks good on this form. So we're okay. We're gonna go back and do the same thing for the 11705. There's a form. Just want to make sure everything is good, because this is a part of the process now. You submit to GenNet to do that attestation. Of course, most likely when GenNet goes into the sunset, this piece will go away, but that we'll worry about that when we get to that part of it. So we're good to go. We want to proceed now to do the attestation, because we review the forms, and then we have all these other disclaimers. Make sure you read them, make sure they make sense to you, and then because you're telling GenMay that you agree with this, and you're going on to do the next level of the process, the pool. So once the attestation is in, you put in your GMAP ID. And put in the password. Once that's validated, then it asks you for your RSA token and your passcode, 4-digit and passcode. And of course, you wait for it, and then we submit a pool. And that's basically it. Renee?
All right, thank you, Wade. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right.
And that was a very quick session, because of course we're in a webinar, so we're not going to go into more details. Once we get into that 3-day training, we will go into more details of to do certain things. Just some quick tips before we move on. Importing SFPDM pool. Imported pool will save time when creating large pools. It's quite obvious, right? But not all of us have that ability to actually do an import. That's why we still have the manual data entry for you. If your pools are small, it will allow you to go in and do them manually. But if you do have large pools, you want to get and start building that XML file. If you're not doing it internally, make sure you get with a vendor who is experienced in this and can help and guide you to build that XML file. Because remember, no more flat files. No more flat files in the SFPDM space. It's now XML. So everything that's coming into SFPDM is have to be in that format now, unless you're going to do the pools in a manual form. Multifamily, multiple pools on their profile. Make sure to select the correct issue number when pooling if the account has multiple organizations. Very important to do that, because you might be you might be set up in your My GenMate space with more than one issue number. Make sure you're selecting the correct information when you're doing that. Next one, advanced filter, are useful when trying to search for specific pools. So you want to try and use those advanced filters. I would suggest not every one of those filters might work for you. You play with them and see which one works best during my work session. One of them for me, I like to use when we were testing, is make my pools favorite. So you go in and click on pools favorites. So anything that has a little star, those pools will show up because those are the pools you're currently working on. So you can play with those advanced filters to make sure it works to your advantage. And I just want to mention again about make sure you have sufficient commitment before issuing a pool. Very important. Important for you and important for the promises that you made to the investor. Because if the pool have insufficient fund, it delays delivery of that pool, and you might miss that commitment date that you set for that to have those pool, that security delivered to the investor. So be careful on that. Skittles, somehow the person maybe was when they were thinking of SFPDM, they were also thinking about food. We had Skittles, and we remember earlier we had Party. So they were really thinking, hopeful this system will be helpful to the users. So Skittles, of course, are those things up top that we never had in GennyNet to tell you the status of the pool, to tell if the pool is certified by the custodian, if the pool is issued. Those things are new. And I know that's going to help you, the team now, because a lot of times we do get called, can you tell me if my pool was issued? Now you don't even have to call us anymore, which is so sad. You can go up there and see for yourself now that the pool is what status the pool is in. And we have the pit pool. You are now able to accept tie pools on the dashboard. That wasn't there now. So if you're a pit pool or a tie pool participant, you can also do your pit pools via SFPDM. Just to tell you something on pit pools. If you currently do your GennyNet pool, if your pool's in GennyNet, you do your pit pools, you continue doing the acceptance of pit pools in GennyNet. If you start doing them in SFPDM, that's where the process should, that's where you should do the acceptance of the pools. And also in reference to final certification. If your pools are SFPDM, you're going to do the final certification in SFPDM. If you currently have pools in GennyNet that are not done, that have not been finalized, but of course you won't be able to do them in SFPDM, you can continue doing them in GennyNet until GennyNet goes away. Of course, there'll be another area for you to go to do those. So just want to give you some of those things. And don't be intimidated with the system. We know it's a new thing. We know some of us have been using GenNet for over 20, 25 years, and you're so used to how GenNet moves, how GenNet feels. But technology, we have to keep up with the times sometimes. So as technology move along, we have to be a part of it. Sometimes we're hesitant because we're used to old stuff and it works so well. But no, we just have to embrace this. And hopefully this is more intuitive for you, and you'll be able to get a lot more out of this in getting more information in when you're setting up your MF, I know I was going to say that, your SFPDM pools. I know I was going to say that. So next slide, please. Oh, just some resources and support. Don't forget, I always call it GenMate MBS Guide My Bible, because it tells me everything that I need to know about pool processing. You don't want to miss it out. And since we were doing ARM pool, I think it's chapter 26 in the GenMay guide that deal with ARM pools. So if you want to check that out specifically to just get more on the policy side and what's needed, you can check out that chapter 26. And of course, the SFPDM user manual, you want to make sure you check on that if you're not clear on what certain fields or what the screens will do. We kind of give that layout in the user manual. And you can't forget the QRCs. Those are the short version of the user manual. If how to add a pool, how to import a pool, how to submit a pool. We have QRCs on those. So utilize those and just make it. We try and prevent things so it can work for you in your environment. Some of us are working from home. Some of us are now working in the office. So we are trying to provide the tools so you'll be able to do your work wherever you are. And of course, don't forget the GenMay customer support group, the 1-833-466-2435, option 1. That's a group that I manage with that team on that side. And of course, we also have, you can send us emails also to our generic or mailbox. That's, you don't have to send it to a specific person, because that mailbox, all the representative on the hotline have access to that GenMay1@BNY Mellon mailbox. And I think, Renee, next slide. I think that concludes the presentation. I just want to say thank you very much, just on my end, before I send it over to Renee. Thank you for your time and patience. And as I said earlier, I know it's a new tool, but let us try and embrace it, because I don't think, just between you and I, GenMay is not going back to GenMat. So we want to get used to that. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Renee?
Thank you, Wade. And I appreciate that little whisper at the end. No, we are not. All right, we got quite a few hand claps there for you. All right, so thanks again, Wade. Oh, and a heart. Okay, great job, Wade.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, there are 3 different ways that you can ask questions, which we already have quite a few in the Q&A box, so wonderful. So if you also have a question and you have not typed it out in the Q&A, you can also raise your hand by selecting the raise hand icon at the bottom of your window, or you can dial *9 on your phone to raise your hand, and that'll let us know that you have a question. So before I go to the Q&A, I want to go ahead and ask Nicole on the line, do we have anyone's hands raised?
Yes, Renee, we have one.
Okay.
Mark, I cannot allow you to talk right now. You need to unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I guess just my questions on, Encompass and ICE is who our vendor is to build our SFPDM and PPD files. They just did a rollout in late April, but there's fields that are missing. There's schemas that are, not correct. I'm just sort of curious if Jenny May has any sort of conversation with these vendors.
So, hey, Mark, thanks for the question. And I did see that you had that typed out in the chat as well. So for any sort of status updates, we do recommend that you contact your customer service representative with Encompass. In that way, you can get any sort of software company updates that you have. And as far as your question, I saw you were asking, one of your concerns was you were worried about the timing of when Encompass may finish as it relates to the Ginnie Mae or the GennyNet cutover to SFPDM. So as of now, we at Ginnie Mae are, the requirement is to ensure that to be compliant with SFPDM adoption, that by July 31st, you are either testing in the BTT and that you have a NISMO compliant PDD, or that you're submitting pools in SFPDM. If you're concerned that Encompass is not going to meet that July 31st deadline, I would just continue to reach out to your customer service representative to get any sort of updates that they have. And if you have additional concerns, the closer we get to July 31st, don't hesitate to contact the SFPDM adoption team using the NISMO support mailbox.
Yeah, I can tell you we are testing in VTT, but
Okay.
we do not have a working,
PDD.
SFPDM file, XML file. To
Okay.
actually, to do pools and deliver pools.
All right. And so, yes, but we are aware of the happenings of Encompass, but again, we just, ask that you continue to work with them. But as long as you are testing in the VTT, that does consider you compliant as far as a requirement for the July 31st requirement. Mark, who is your, what issuer are you? I'm sorry, I'm not
We
familiar.
are 2706. And so as long as we're testing in the VTT, we're compliant, but we could still pool in JennyNet until we have a working file.
Correct, yes. So we are actually going to be issuing an APM here shortly that will confirm that for you. So yes, as long as you're testing the VTT by July 31st, you are meeting the requirement for what will be announced in the upcoming APM regarding the July 31st requirements for SFPDM adoption.
That's very good news. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a question, Wade, regarding, and I believe this question, it comes from an anonymous person, and I believe it's about this particular slide for the path of a pool. Wade, they're asking if we can get a more clear image of the Ginnie Mae pool processing agent of this process. So yeah, I'll work with the bank to get a more clear image. We do plan on having this presentation published to the website immediately following this training event. However, I will work with Wade and his team to make sure that we have a clear picture of this prior to it actually being published, if it has not already done.
We'll work on that, Renee, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yep. All right, so let me actually go back to this slide in case anybody needs to jot down these phone numbers or email mailbox. All right, so our next question is from, oh, we did that one already. That was from Mark. Okay, our next question is from Tammy Hanel. Apologies if I did not pronounce your last name correctly, but Tammy's question is the notification only delivered to the person doing the task in SFPDM, such as submission, or can an individual set up notifications so that others are also notified?
It's only for the one who's doing the task in SFPDM. It's gonna get those notifications that deal with that pool, yes.
Okay. And then Tammy has another question asking about, she says, what loan data, not a pool, will prevent import and produce a schema error, preventing import of the pool / loans into SFPDM?
Oh, that's a loaded one because it can be quite a few. It can be quite a few of the, that might be more of a NISMO question than Wade's question, because it could be a lot of things that's not correct in terms of the format that prevents that pool from coming in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there is a issuer friendly or user friendly list of business rules that issuers can refer to on the training page, and they can see all the different business rules related to loans.
Thank you very much,
Hey, Constantine, since I'm sharing my screen right now, would you mind putting that HRL, that URL in the chat so that Tammy and others are able to access that?
Okay, I'll email it because I don't have access to the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. or Nicole, if you're able to do that, that would be great also. If you can throw that URL in the chat for the business rules.
Yes, I'll do that in a second.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, our next question. All right, so this question is around the training that Wade mentioned earlier during the presentation. So the question is, where can we get information for the next 3 trainings? The training that Wade was referring to is single family new issuer training.
Yeah.
That will be held in June. It'll be held the first week in June and the second week in June. And the first week will be around pooling processes, and the second week will be for investor reporting. The training announcement for that training will go out sometime later this month, towards the end of the month. And when the announcement is published to ginniemay.gov, an e-notification and my Ginnie Mae portal message will be sent out as well, notifying everyone of the training event. Once that happens, you will be able to go out to the website and register for that training event. Okay, so glad to know that we at least have one participant for that training nonetheless. All right. Oh, Tammy, thank you so much for this positive feedback. So Tammy, in case anybody is interested on hearing some real-time feedback about SFPDM, she is confirming and saying for her that where she is, they love SFPDM. They just need to understand a few things, and that's wonderful, Tammy. That's what we're here for. Please do feel free to contact the MISMO support mailbox. And if there's any specific questions that you have related to single family or around SFPDM adoption, you can contact the SFPDM adoption team. And Nicole will be so kindly to put that email address in the chat. And if you have any specific questions about the application and how to use the application, you can contact the Bank of New York Mellon at this support mailbox here that you see right here, or you can go ahead and dial the Ginnie Mae customer support line and select option 1. Thank you, Tammy, for that. So if there's any questions again for you or anyone else on the call, please don't hesitate to utilize those resources. All right, our next question is from Adriana. This is Adriana from PennyMac. Hi, Adriana from PennyMac. So you're saying that you all have missed, I'm sorry, I may have missed this at the start of the call, but will errors still be fatals and warning edits on the report?
Yes. Yes, Adriana. Am I on mute?
No, you're not on mute. We heard you.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then we have one last question. Oh, we got a thumbs up on that. So
thank you.
Thank you. All right, Tammy, you would like to know if can issuers at times see the custodian process for informational, since you all work closely with your custodians, but really don't know what steps to take?
Close up meaning you'd like to see what they do on their side. Currently, we don't have anything like that in for training purposes. But if that person wants to call my group, and we can just give them an overview of what happens on the custodian side, we're willing to do that. That's no problem. Just to get an understanding what happens in their space. What we do in our training session most of the time, we don't actually show the custodian system, but we have a couple of screens in our presentation, so to give you an idea what happens in their space when the pool is submitted. And I think we're going to continue doing that in our next sessions to come.
All right, so we are just 4 minutes past time, but I do want to thank everyone for your questions, and I just want to do one last sweep to make sure that we don't have any hands raised on the phone. Nicole, do we have any hands raised, or is that all?
That is all. We don't have any hands right now.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today's call. We appreciate all of the claps and the cheers. So Wade, thank you so much for conducting that demo for us.
No problem.
And we will see you all at the next training event. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day and have a fabulous weekend.
Thank you very much.